Hello everyone, welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm broadcasting to you live from beautiful Budapest, Hungary. Nice to see so many members joining in early on time. Today, August 9th, and we will be looking at learning vocabulary for the IELTS and what are some good ways to do that. Again, our materials, as usual, are coming from our websites. So for academic IELTS, please visit us at aehelp.com. That's academicenglishhelp.com. And for general IELTS, visit us at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com, where you can get lots and lots of materials, lesson videos, interactive practice exams to help you with your next IELTS test. This is a members chat only class. Of course, everybody's welcome to view and learn. Members twice a week get these special perks for requested classes as well as access to all of our 6 full practice exams. Hi Shakya, hi Manisha, hi Jeffrey, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking, Jeffrey. My day was very busy. We're working on a couple of new HD lesson videos, including mock IELTS speaking interviews with subtitles. So that's been keeping me quite busy aside from all the other tasks that I do during the week or during the day. Shakya, I see that you got admission to Melbourne, Australia for your master's. Excellent, congratulations. That's great. I'm sure you will be successful and become a very valuable and productive member of society. Hi, Nina. Good to see you jumping in as well. Hi, Michael John. Awesome to see you also. If you haven't downloaded our app, please do that. Go to your Google Play Store. We're still working on the Apple Store. We'll get there soon. Academic IELTS Help, look for our logo. Again, just a quick reminder of the schedule. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a very early class, my time, Central European time. It will be between 9 and 10 a.m. in the morning, my time. We will continue with the full online course, Part 5, and we'll be looking at listening, section of IELTS specific strategies for the 9 different question types like multiple choice, filling in blanks, filling out forms and tables. Then you will have 3 days of no class, so 11th to 13th, no classes there, but we are producing some new speaking videos. So you will have a chance to study from those during this time. So make sure to check the channel because we will have those uploaded during that time. We're hoping to get them up tomorrow. And then 14th, we're back looking at the full course again. That's coming from our websites. And then we have a members recommendation. I'm waiting for that members. I do have a couple recommendations right now, so that's great. Hi, Baljit. Good to see you in class. And then we go all the way to the 18th. Okay, so for today's class, we will use the website as well as the book to show you how to learn vocabulary. Here is the academic IELTS website. It's the blue background. And then the green background is the general IELTS website. So that's what you're looking for when you're searching for our materials online. All right, so let's go back to the academic website. I'm just going to quickly log in here and I'll show you where you have a lot of resources. And by the way, you can access these for free as well, a lot of what I'm about to show you. Just give me a moment. I want to make sure you can see everything clearly. Up at the top, let me zoom in a little bit. Up at the top, we have these 2 little gray buttons. They're quite easy to miss because they're kind of small and they're gray. They don't really pop out at you. Quick question, especially the members here. Have you been using or looking at the blog and the forum on the website when you're logging in? If not, I definitely recommend opening up the blog, okay? Baljit, there's a study plan with your PDFs, so have a look at that study plan. That will help you, and if you're still confused, send me an email and I'll help you out, okay? So again, do answer me if you have a moment. If you're looking at blogs, great. If you're not, then please do so. When you open up the blog part of the website, this is all just kind of extra valuable information that you can access in the free or the full course. And then you can see here, we've just added these recently, the IELTS Task 2 writing samples, band 8 to 9 examples. Those were from previous classes. So we added a couple of those. We also added this blog here. It's the IELTS Student Success Stories. So a lot of our students who are using our materials, mastering those key strategies and practicing with our exams, they get some very good scores on their IELTS tests. And if you open up this one here, then you can read, maybe 20 or 30 different success stories of our students passing and reaching their goals of university and immigration. And then, of course, we tackle some important topics like reading section tips. I'm not going to go through all of these. The reason I opened it up is for this one here in particular. It's called IELTS Vocabulary for High Scores. Okay? Manisha, great. You're checking them out. That's good. All right. So, IELTS Vocabulary for High Scores, definitely when you're learning vocabulary, have a look at that. Let's open that up. And then here, you have a nice description of how to learn for vocabulary. I will go through this step by step today, so we don't need to worry about reading all this right now. Here's an example of what we will be doing to learn vocabulary. Here's an example. I had to analyze the spider that bit me because it looked very dangerous. And then the example continues. Since the spider that bit me appeared poisonous, I needed to analyze it. Hopefully some of our students that watch regularly are realizing what's going on here with these sentences. There's some paraphrasing there. Now, here's the exciting part of this blog. Notice these words here, okay? That's right, Manisha, we're paraphrasing, okay? So, what are these words? Anybody know what these words are? Anybody have a look at this blog before and have an idea of what kind of words or what list of words you're looking at here? These are called high frequency academic words, okay? So a couple of very clever professors in New Zealand, I believe, looked at a lot of materials, especially in university colleges. They looked at textbooks, they looked at IELTS exams, they looked at all kinds of different exams at that level. They looked at professors' lectures, and they really looked at a lot of material. And they analyzed it using computers, of course, to see which words are among the most common used at the academic level or at the higher levels of English. And they basically created a list of these words called here's the actual person I should show you. It's called Avril Coxhead's High Incidence Academic Word List, shortened to AWL. And they even took it one step further and said, okay, well, let's even help people more. Let's group these. So let's group them from 1 to 10. 1 is the absolute highest level of frequency, so words like analyze or analysis, approach. And then they basically rank ordered them. I'm not sure what the cutoffs were, but they rank ordered them to second most frequent, third, fourth, fifth. And if you keep going down here in our list, you will see that, well, a little bit, here we go, here's number 6. And then if you keep going down, you will find the other columns, 7, 8, 9, and then I believe 10 here is at the very bottom. There you go. Even the 10th category, like adjacent, albeit, assembly, collapse, colleague, compile, conceive, convince. These are still very common words. All of the words in these 10 groups are very common. These are just not as common as, of course, group number 1 or group number 2, but they're still very common. Now, if you're looking to get a band 7 or even more on IELTS or even a 6.5, you really do need to learn as many of these words as you can before you sit the IELTS, and especially before you start your university studies in English, okay? So if you haven't looked at this blog yet, make sure to check that blog out on our website. It's the vocabulary list blog, and look at these words and look at the ways to learn them. Now, when I say learn these words, of course, I don't just mean learn to understand them or learn to comprehend them in speech or writing. I'm also telling you that you need to be able to use these words. So you need to be able to put encounter, enormous, forthcoming into a sentence and effectively use them correctly in context in your speaking and in your writing, okay? So it's very, very important for you to learn these and to use these. You might know some of them already. So a good step, and I'll make some notes here for you so you can review these when you're studying at home. So as a good first step, go through the list, okay, and identify the words that you are very confident with, that you know you can understand and use in conversation. Now be careful, make sure you can use them in conversation. If you can't, then you need to learn them more. So step number 1, go through the word list, the AWS word list in the blog, and cross out the vocabulary that you are 110% confident you know and can use, okay? Now that's a good step number 1, all right? Then for step number 2, going back here real quick. So for step number 2, please do not try to go through these words alphabetically. That is absolutely not a good way to do it. You can see that a lot of these are organized alphabetically. So you see that these start with A, and then you have 1B, and then you have some C's. Group 2 also alphabetic, starting with A, then the C's. Not a lot of B words, interestingly. Here again, we have 1A and then some C's. Please don't just go from the top down. That is not an effective way to learn, okay? AWS, yeah, Baljit, that's right, Manish. It's the academic word list, okay? So don't go through them alphabetically. That is not an effective procedure to learn vocabulary. The brain doesn't like that kind of rote information, okay? So instead, what you should do is each day you should choose 3 to 5 new words, circle them. Of course, you can print these, so you can copy paste these into a Word document and print it out for yourself. So what you should do is you should start kind of with the higher frequency, so definitely become familiar with the first few categories first. So let's say that you're sitting down on a beautiful Saturday and thinking, okay, I'm going to learn some new vocabulary. So what you should do is, let's say that you're not familiar with the word authority. So you circle the word authority. And then take another one from a different group. So let's say you take consequent from this group. And then imagine you've picked those ones out, and then from the third group, you take the word imply. That's a very good one, by the way, to know. Use that one on task 1. And then you take the word hence, and you take the word notion. All right? So there hypothetically, you've chosen these 5 words. Now you know that your goal is to learn these 5 words during your Saturday studies, okay? So again, not alphabetical. They're kind of random. Make sure that you circle them or cross them out when you pick them so that you don't repeat the same word in the future. Okay, you should do about 5 each day. If you can do 5 each day, you should be able to learn these words very effectively in about 90 to 100 days. Ideally, you at least have a couple months before you sit IELTS, okay? Members, if you have questions while I'm giving this long-winded speech, just ask, okay? Interrupt me anytime. Don't worry about it. I can keep track of where I'm at for the most part. So, you've picked these 5 words, and of course, you need to have a little notebook that fits into your pocket that you can take with you anywhere. I don't suggest doing this digitally, okay? In the IELTS, you're writing by hand, okay? You're writing the answers, the words by hand. So it's really good that at the same time you're learning your vocabulary, you're practicing your handwriting. I strongly suggest that you do that with vocabulary learning as well. Okay, so use old school paper pencil learning methodology here, all right? So let me make a couple notes real quick so you don't forget these important steps. So step 2, choose 3 to 5 words, depends on how much time you have to study for IELTS, from the AWS list each day to learn. Okay, now keep in mind, A, do not pick in alphabetical order. Instead, pick randomly starting with groups 1 to 5, okay? So learn the higher frequency words first, of course. Baljit, yes, okay, that's a good question. Does handwriting matter on IELTS? Absolutely. If you have really bad handwriting and it becomes difficult to read, then you can lose marks. If it's understandable, I see that's what you're asking me, like I can still make sense of it, that's okay, but some people believe that it still can cost you marks, especially on your task 1 and task 2 writing. If the writing is really messy, even if it's legible, if we can read it, then it can still psychologically affect that examiner, and your mark might drop by a 0.5. So you definitely want to have good handwriting. Just a side note on that, if you go online and you search for writing letters in English and you search for pictures on Google, you can get these worksheets that teachers use in grade 1, grade 2 classes, which help train kids to write good letters, okay? They're kind of like those dotted little lines where you basically trace the letter over and over, so you get a good idea of how to write those letters with the correct line strokes as well, okay? So choose 3 to 5 words from the list, not alphabetical order, randomly, starting with groups 1 to 5. Cross them out or circle them, so you know which ones you picked. Okay, and then step 3, this is, I'm not sure if this is a step, but it's something you need to do. Make sure to have a small paper notebook. Hopefully you can find that at a stationery or at an office store somewhere near you. Make sure to have a small paper notebook and pencil for vocabulary learning, which fits into your pocket, and you can easily take it with you wherever you go, okay? It's important that you can pull that out of your pocket when you're on the bus or you're waiting at the dentist office, something like that. Yes, Jeffrey, legible means it can be read. Thank you for clarifying that vocab for some of the viewers. Okay. Mohammed, flashcards are absolutely a good way to do word learning as well. Using flashcards can be a very effective method, and there are a lot of different techniques and strategies for using flashcards effectively, front-back type strategies. I'm not going to talk about that. I could do a whole class on that for you. So using flashcards effectively, where you basically have the word on one side, the definition, and the example sentence on the back side, can be very effective. And you can play games with flashcards with partners where you're having to match up certain words and definitions, or you challenge each other to create sentences. You can create a point system where you make it competitive. So there are a lot of effective ways for learning from flashcards. I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole today, Mohammed, but you can definitely send me an email and remind me, hey, Adrian, please do a class that's targeting just flashcards and how to use flashcards in powerful ways for mnemonic games so we can learn from them. Okay, so make sure to have a small paper notebook. Easily take it with you wherever you go. Remember, you must, let's put that in big letters, you must, repeat that 3 times, you must practice your penmanship, is what it's called, for the IELTS exam. Okay, penmanship is your ability to write clearly, cleanly, beautifully by hand, okay? So, practice vocabulary the same way. All right, step 4, and I'm not sure if any of our members has been with me long enough to learn about vocabulary study, but if you have, let me know, because you can be my assistant through these steps. And we will, in fact, adapt some of the strategies that we learned over the past couple classes for the course part 1, 2, 3, 4 when we're learning this vocabulary, okay? So when you're actually learning vocabulary, what do you need to do? All right, so number 1, okay, so step 4, learning vocabulary. Effective vocabulary study. Okay, what do you do first? Number 1, of course, pick a word and write down the definition. So choose a word and write down the definition. Okay, so for this, I'm going to choose the first one from the word list here with you. So let's just pick one of these ones. So members, choose a word from here that you want me to use as a first example. Whatever one you think might be a good one to know for IELTS. Okay, that's fine, Manisha. We're going to go through it again. And then, so you're having trouble with word forms. We can talk about that a little bit as well, so I can get into some word forms. Okay, so Shakia says investigate. That's a good one. So here's the word investigate. It's okay to choose something that's a little bit more simple. So investigate, what is the word form here? So what is it? Is it an adjective, noun, verb, adverb? It's a verb, right? All right, and what does it mean? Anybody? So what is the meaning of the word investigate? If you don't know, of course, you're going to have to use a dictionary. So you're looking into a dictionary, you're looking at the definition, and you want to write out. So even when you read the definition, don't just read it, but actually write out the definition by pencil, okay? So it means to search, means to look for, to inspect, to research, And you want to get as much detail here as possible to check something out. Sure. What's the purpose of investigate? There's a little bit more to investigate than just searching. To get details in depth, that's a good way to say it as well, Mohammed. The reason why we search or look for or inspect or check out information when we're investigating is usually because we want to discover some end result. Okay, and by doing this, of course, you're finding a lot of synonyms as well. So investigating meaning search or meaning research or discovery. So those can be synonyms for this word, right? And then Manisha, absolutely, as you're going along here, you want to focus on different word forms, okay? So when you're doing more advanced studying here, then identify the various word forms, okay? So in our example here, what are some other forms of the word investigate? Anybody? I'll start you off. Let's use the investigation, right? That's the noun form. Yeah, very good, Manisha. Everybody got the noun form? What else is there? Investigative is the adjective. Okay, like an investigative procedure. Investigated, Mohammed, is still just the verb form, but you're just using the past tense. So that is a different word form in some sense, but you're still in the verb, okay? So it is a regular verb, so you just put D on the end, okay? So investigation, investigative. All right, and that's as far as I can go off the top of my head. You might go with investigator as well, which is the person noun. Okay, that would be a good one. Now, your third step, this is where things get a little bit more fun and a little bit more interesting. Your third step is write, so after you've written the definition, in word forms, write an example sentence. Okay, the example sentence must be interesting, complex, and what else? So if yeah, very good, Mohammed. Investigatory is another word form as well. Investigating can be the gerund. That's right, Manisha. So now, for part 3, you've written down the word forms, the definitions, and now you need to write an example sentence. This sentence has to be interesting, has to be complex, and has to be what else? Very good, Mohammed. It should include yourself. Let me brighten up the day here for everyone a little bit. There we go. So, and include yourself. Now, if I want to make this parallel grammar in this sentence, this must be interesting, complex, and personal. Okay? So it has to be personal. It has to be connected to you. The reason I did that correction, by the way, quick side note, is to have parallel grammar among my points. Okay? You're always looking for that. Hi, Arcana. Good to see you in class. Good timing to join in. So can you write some example sentences with the word investigate, which include these 3 components? So use the word investigate, write an example sentence, make it interesting, make it complex, and make it personal. So that's what you need to do now. And then I'll take one of your examples, okay? Again, for all of the viewers who are watching, please make sure that when you're practicing your vocabulary, you're not just writing simple sentences like the police investigated the murder, okay? I'll give you that as a bad example. Okay, so this is a bad sentence or a bad example sentence. The reason why this is a bad example sentence because your brain will have a lot of difficulty learning in this way. The sentence is too simple, it's too distant, the brain does not feel attachment to this kind of information. We live in an age of information overload where we're getting too much information. So simple ideas like this that are not connected to us, they're not overly interesting for us, our brain just basically picks them up and just as easily discards them, throws them out the other side. So this is what you do not want to do when you're studying for IELTS. This will not help you improve your grammar. This will not be effective to learn words, okay? So don't do that. Instead, do something much more useful. Now, I see we have a couple of example sentences. Mohammed says, I lost my new mobile and asked my friend to investigate what happened. Investigate it is not clear, Mohammed, because it, the pronoun, is unclear to the reader. What do you mean it? Investigate the situation, investigate the people, where it happened. So you need more clarity there, okay? So a better sentence would be, I lost my new mobile phone and asked my friend to investigate it. I'm going to take that example, Mohammed, and expand on it in a second to see how you can make that even better, okay? Shakia says, CID officers came to my home to investigate my brother for what, Shakia? Finish that sentence, okay? So for what? Put an end to that sentence. Make it a little bit more complete. Jeffrey says, hearing the news of a strange creature in the abandoned building, I formed a group to investigate it. There, the pronoun is good, Jeffrey, the it, because we're clear that you're going to investigate the abandoned building for the creature, okay? Manisha says, in our neighborhood, a house was robbed by 3 thieves. So the police investigated the case diligently and caught the perpetrators the next day. Manisha, you can join those 2 sentences, okay? And don't repeat the word thieves. Instead, find another word. So burglars, perpetrators, criminals, lots of other words. I'm sure you know one of those. So make sure to switch it up, okay? Join the sentences. Don't repeat words, okay? Even if they're 2 sentences, try not to have repetition so close in proximity. Arcana says, I've done some online purchase and last day I received an empty box. Instantly, I called customer care and they assured me that they will investigate the order. You don't need the about that order. It's too complex, Arcana. Just investigate the order, investigate what happened. Michael John says, in my office work, I had to investigate the system memory leakage problem yesterday. I put the timestamp or expression, Michael John, at the beginning. Yesterday, in my office, I had to investigate the system memory leakage. Why? What did you find? Give me a little bit more information. Make it a little bit more interesting. Yeah, Shakia, that's much better. CID officers came to my home to investigate my brother because they thought he was involved in a robbery, okay? Don't use a comma there, Shakia. The first half of your sentence is the independent clause in your complex sentence. The second half is your dependent clause. So in this case, you don't need a comma between brother and because, okay? The only way that you would need that is if you reverse the dependent-independent clause. So make sure you remember that. If you don't, then review your subordinating conjunctions, all right? Baljit, I made a complaint at the FBI branch to investigate the money I lost while making a digital transfer. It's the correct way, Baljit, for the ending there. All right, I'm going to use Mohammed's example here and just tweak it a little bit. So I lost my new iPhone 10 yesterday. So I asked one of my friends who is a detective to investigate this unfortunate event. Mishap, let's Let's use that instead. Okay. So, Mohammed, if you're still with me and watching, just a little bit more tweaking here. So notice that instead of saying my new mobile, I replaced that with a very specific mobile here, which is the iPhone X. Why did I do that? So anybody, why do you think, Mohammed, I did that? Shakya, Baljit, Arcana, why do you think that I felt it much better to just take out the word mobile from Mohammed's example and throw in the iPhone X? Why would that make sense? Why would that really increase the efficiency of my learning here, okay? Girls and guys, everybody who's watching, my goal here is not simply to teach you vocabulary for IELTS, but it's to really teach you powerful ways of learning where you're making much, much better use of your time and probably enjoying more as well. Mohammed, yeah, you're kind of right. It's not really quantitative info so much as it's visual. Yeah, it's very visual. And Michael John says too, it's easier to visualize. So I'm not just thinking of some random mobile phone that's just got the shape of a smartphone, but here I have a very specific image of the iPhone X in my mind. That's one reason that I did that. Baljit, yeah, it is. The other reason I did that, I don't think anybody caught it so far. The other reason I use the iPhone is because how much does an iPhone X cost? It's very expensive, right? iPhone X is easily over $1,000. I think even US, it's over $1,000. So it's very painful to lose a $1,000 pocket computer, basically. A very powerful pocket computer camera for that fact. So you're right, Mohammed. It's very precious and expensive, so it's much more heartfelt. If I were to really lose my iPhone X, I would probably cry. Because it elicits a powerful emotion, because it's strongly emotional, with just that change, it now becomes a much more effective way to learn the word investigate, okay? Now, Manisha, just to jump back to your question of, well, what about different word forms? Well, let's say you're confident in this word form, and you know the verb form of investigate, then what you should be doing is creating sentences with the other forms. So create a sample or an example sentence with investigative instead of the word investigate, and check to see if it's correct. If you're not sure that it's correct, you either need to use some kind of online software to check it, or ask a teacher or ask somebody with high-level English, okay? But practice the different word form, all right? Okay, so that's great. So here you've included yourself, Mohammed. You've made it interesting, and you made it complex or compound in this case, right? You're using an adjective clause for a person. You're using a comma here to join two sentences. I lost my iPhone yesterday, period, one sentence. So, comma, I asked one of my friends who is a detective to investigate this unfortunate mishap. It's a second sentence. We're allowed to join these with the coordinating conjunction so, right? Remember fanboys, your coordinating conjunctions. You're joining it, so you've made a compound sentence here with two sentence elements. Great, all right? Okay, so what do we do next? Anybody remember? So if some of you have been with me long enough to learn some of this vocabulary strategy and you remember, then let me know. Let's see how well you remembered. Mohammed, that would be good. Yeah, I took the help of investigatory authorities to locate my brand new phone, which was lost yesterday. Yeah, exactly. So trying different word forms. Thanks for putting up that that example there, Mohammed. All right, so what do I do next? So I've written down by hand in my little notebook that fits into my pocket this example sentence below my definition. What do I do? What do I do? Arcana, what do I do? I'm not sure what the thumbs down is for, but what do I do next? So what do I do after this? Use it in writing and speaking, of course, as much as possible, but there's actually more steps to this effective learning of vocabulary. So next step, and this is an important one, all right? This is step 4. Yeah, kind of revise. Yeah, so Jeffrey says, after a couple of days, rewrite it. And it's not just rewriting it, but it's paraphrasing it. So after 2 or 3 days, paraphrase the sentence, okay? And you should use some advanced paraphrasing techniques. So don't just use synonyms, but remember, use synonyms, antonym, negatives, expressions, description, and grammar, okay? So mix up your paraphrasing. By doing this, you're practicing for the IELTS as well. The IELTS uses lots and lots of paraphrasing, so this is great practice, not just for the vocabulary, but also for understanding paraphrasing in IELTS, right? So in your little notebook, so when you have that little notebook and you're practicing this vocabulary, every time you write down your example sentence, like this one here, the I lost my new iPhone X, make sure you leave 3 lines. I recommend leaving 3 lines so you have enough space where 2 or 3 days later you can fit in your paraphrased sentence, okay? So let's paraphrase this sentence nice and quick. So we can see the example. So 2 or 3 days pass and you paraphrase. By paraphrasing, you're going to strengthen this information in your mind. You're going to create in what psychologists call long-term potentiation. You don't need to do that unless you don't need to learn that unless you're going to be a psychologist. But long-term potentiation means basically taking your information from short-term and allowing it to really manifest in long-term memory so that you can use it in the future as well. You can use it 2 months later when you get to your IELTS, okay? So the example that I can give you here is I requested one of my pals who works as a sloth, there's a way to, let's see. Another word for detective is sleuth, but I never use it, so I don't know the spelling. There you go. That's a good example of long-term potentiation. So I requested one of my pals who works as a sleuth to investigate losing my iPhone X yesterday. Okay, so here's a nice paraphrase of this. I'm sure a couple of you are probably working on these as well. So I requested one of my pals who works as a sleuth to investigate losing my iPhone yesterday, or my iPhone X yesterday. Okay. So by doing this, of course, you strengthen the word investigate, and you might also strengthen other words like your other vocabulary that you're familiar with, like I just did with the word sleuth. And in fact, I just learned how to spell that word because I've never really written it before. So again, here's a paraphrase. Notice I'm using grammar. I'm using synonyms. Instead of saying ask, I'm using the word request. Let's see, you can see the original there. So instead of saying asked, I'm saying requested. Instead of saying friend, I'm using pals. Instead of using detective, I'm using sleuth. So lots of paraphrasing going on there. That's great. That's really going to help me, all right? Now, Baljit says, I took the help of an investigatory branch of Apple to detect the iPhone that must be either stolen or misplaced. That's okay, Baljit, but you're changing the meaning of the sentence. So you're not really saying the same as the original sentence. Make sure to keep the idea the same. So you're asking your friend to help you with this. Now, what I suggest, if you can have a multicolored pen, so sometimes you can buy those neat pens or pencils that have more than one color, you should use a different color for the vocabulary that you're learning, just so it really pops out at you when you're reviewing your vocabulary book. Again, this kind of practice can look like it's very time-consuming, but it's really not. Once you start doing this regularly, you can become very quick and fluent at this, and it becomes a very, very powerful learning tool. Now, so far so good. Is everything clear? Any questions, members? So any questions about what we've done so far? If yes, let me know. Now's a good time to ask. All right, I haven't done anything on my end, Baljit, so I'm not sure. Okay? All right, so Jeffrey says it's very, very clear. Okay, so let's increase the efficiency of this technique. So far, I think Jeffrey and maybe a couple other people, Manisha, you've seen me talk about this before. But there is another level to making this even more powerful, especially when you're becoming confident in your English levels. I know, Manisha, and I know, Jeffrey, that you are both fairly high level English students. So absolutely, I encourage you to take this next step. So once you've done this kind of practice and you have a good library of new vocabulary, then what you want to start doing is combine new words, okay? So so for a more advanced level, vocabulary learning, combine 2, maximum 3 new words into one example. Okay? If you're a beginner at this, I don't suggest doing this because you can make a lot of mistakes in your example sentences. When I've seen lower level students, so let's say intermediate English level students, try to do 2 or more words, especially at the beginning. They make too many grammatical and language use mistakes. And then the example sentences become incomprehensible and so laden with mistakes that they're really not effective, okay? You can't be making too many mistakes. Definitely, Manisha, you want to be practicing different kinds of conjunctions when you're joining these sentences and when you're learning this new vocabulary. So let me do an example for you for this second tier or this second level of learning vocabulary effectively. So let's jump back to this word list here on the website. Okay, and pick another word. So choose another word. Here, let me move this list for you a little bit so you see a new set. There we go. So choose another word from here, which we can then combine with the word that we just learned. Okay? So Manisha says, how about exclude? Okay. Or strategy. Sure, Shakya, that would be a good one too. Exclude, strategy works. Let's see some other words as well. Retain. Okay, Manisha says, how about retain? Yeah, I think exclude and strategy might be familiar for a lot of students. So let's take something that's maybe a little bit less common, and let's go with retain. I'm just trying to see where you're looking at that. Oh, there it is. So remember, again, when you have this printed, circle the word, right? So you know that you've taken that word, okay? So retain. All right, sounds good. Okay, so ideally what you would have is already some kind of an example with that one, all right? So let me... Let me take the word retain. So again, remember very quickly, we go through the definition. Retain is to keep, to hold back, to fasten. Okay. To keep in place. All right, and it is a verb as well. All right, now, again, ideally you have some interesting sentence. So, it was very important to retain my scholarship at Harvard University, so I not only had to give up drinking alcohol on the weekends, but also stop playing video games in the evening. All right, so here's my example sentence. It was very important to retain my scholarship at Harvard University, so I not only had to give up drinking alcohol on the weekends, but also stop playing video games in the evening. So here, clearly, I'm in the danger of losing my scholarship, so to hold on to my scholarship at Harvard University, I had to give this up. That's my example sentence, okay? Mohammed says, after completion of my IELTS exam, I retained the reading question booklet so I can take it home. That's funny, Mohammed. Just make sure you don't do that. Otherwise, you'll get into a lot of trouble, and you might have some detectives coming to your house to investigate where the missing IELTS booklet went, okay? So there is the application of investigate and speaking. All right, so good. We have that. Now just imagine we've done the paraphrasing. I'm going to skip that part for now, but definitely you want to paraphrase this as well when you're doing this regularly. And now you want to combine it, okay? So you want to do a combination. So investigate plus retain. Okay, now again, remember, you could do a third one, so plus something, so another third, but no more than 3, okay? We're going to stick with 2 right now. So I'm challenging you, members, to write an example sentence using investigate and retain. Plus, I'd like to see, because we haven't seen too many of these, I just used one, but I'd like to see you use it, a correlative conjunction. Okay? So here we go. Try that out as a little bit of a challenge. It makes you think more. You'll realize your brain's going to be spinning and working a little bit more to come up with something effective. It still needs to include you. It still needs to be interesting. So something interesting includes yourself, uses both of these words, and becomes a compound, complex, or both, using at least one correlative conjunction. All right? So let's see how well you can do. Mr. Shakya says, I just got admission in Australia. Make sure you capitalize the word Australia, Shakia. Arcana, this is not homework. I'm waiting for you to do this in class. Homework's yet to come, but this one, I'm looking for your examples right now, all right? So let me just finish up Shakia's example here. I just got an admission in Australia. Now, either I retain my place in AE Help to improve my English, or stop preparing for my exams. Don't repeat the word English, Shakya. So again, careful with word repetition, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, don't repeat words within the same sentences. It's awkward, especially nouns. Find synonyms, use pronouns, something different. In English, it's quite awkward when we're hearing repetitive words, okay? All right. Now that Shakya used the word retain, which is good. I'm looking for a more higher level example here that also uses the word investigate. Okay. I see you put up another example. I just got admission in Australia. Now either I retain my place studying with AE Help to improve my English, or I investigate other ways to prepare for my exam. Shakya, very good. Okay, note my corrections there, but very good example. All right, I'd be sad to see you go, I'll be honest with you, but hey, great example. Okay. Mohammed says, after completion of the investigation, I not only found my iPhone X, but I also retained the investigation report. Very good. Okay, you're repeating the word investigation, so I would change that maybe to, but I also retained the detective's report. I like it, Mohammed. That's very good. After, and I love how you made the connection there, Mohammed, with your previous example. So after completion of the investigation, I not only got my iPhone X back. Okay, notice how I changed that there. But I also retained the detective's report and discovered that one of my classmates took it while I was daydreaming. Okay, all right. So there's a nice long sentence. I tweaked it a little bit, Mohammed, but it's really good. Mohammed, I think you did an excellent job of not only using the word investigate in a different word form, so you used it in the noun form here, not only included the other word retained well, but what you did in a brilliant way is you took an element of your previous example that you wrote, which is this one here is the original. So I lost my new iPhone X yesterday, so I asked one of my friends who is a detective to investigate this unfortunate mishap. So you took this interesting idea, you adapted it in the next step, and you expanded on it using 2 pieces of vocabulary. That's brilliant, okay? So you did that very, very well, all right? Love it. Jeffrey says, the policeman investigated me to see whether I am a gangster with an illegal firearm or just an innocent student who wants to study abroad. Jeffrey, where's the word retain? Okay, it's sometimes easy to miss what you're actually focusing on here. So here, this is why it's good to circle, highlight, or use a different color to emphasize the key words that you're focusing on, and use different colors for the 2 different words. So investigation in red, and let's use yellow for retain. So if I do that, now I can really clearly see that, okay, I use both of the target vocabulary there. That's what I was thinking you wanted to do, Jeffrey, is retain the firearm. So the policeman investigated me to see whether I'm a gangster who is retaining an illegal firearm or just an innocent student who wants to study abroad, all right? Arcana. Even though it's boring to retain the same book again and again, doesn't make sense, Arcana. That's not good in context. And that's why you want to practice, is to make sure that you're doing it right. So even though it's boring, I would maybe write something different. I think what you're trying to say, Arcana, is to hold on to a book and read it again and again. You're missing that very crucial word, read it. So even though it's useless to retain an old book to read again and again, I like to keep all my books to build a massive library. Something like that, Arcana, would work much better, okay? Manisha, while driving my car, the policeman stopped me to investigate whether I have the documents for the vehicle or not, but unfortunately, I was driving without a license because I could not retain it after my accident last year. Manisha, where's the word retain? Where's that second vocabulary? Number one. Number two, don't repeat the word car. Change it up for vehicle, okay? So use something different. All right, girls and guys, so that is a lot of information for you for how to improve your vocabulary. Of course, once you've written down these words, definitions, example sentences, paraphrase sentences, combination sentences, or combinations of vocabularies within a sentence, make sure to review it. Read them aloud so you can hear yourself, so you can hear the word. Apply them in speaking. Try to purposefully use it in your speaking and when you're practicing writing task 1 and 2. And that way, you will be on path to master these crucial words for the IELTS exam and also for your future life and studies, okay? So a very effective way. Don't just write out words 1,000 times. That's not a good way to learn. Sometimes students will just try to do these rote memory schemes where they write down the same word 20 times. It's not good. The brain doesn't work that way, okay? The brain is interconnected. It works through making connections among millions and millions and billions of neural endings. It likes connections. That's what you need to give it. That's what you need to feed it. And then you will expand your mind and become that much smarter. For homework, members, try this with some of the vocabulary, again, from the website. So just a quick peek back here. It's quite bright, so I'm only going to hold it there for a second. But I challenge you, write 2 or 3 sample sentences where you combine 2 of these words and send them to me by email. I'll take a look at them. I'll let you know if you're on the right track, if they're correct or if they have mistakes, and then you can revise them, look at them again. So I'll look forward to receiving those, okay? Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Thanks, Baljit, for today, for being here. Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you again. Manisha, it was a good suggestion for this class, so I could go into some more details. That's very good. Arcana, always good to see you. Better late than never, so do make sure to pop in. Mohammed, excellent. Michael, I'm not sure if you're still in class, but it was good to see you as well. I hope to see all of our members in these member chat only classes. They are uniquely requested and targeted for you. Thank you to all of our viewers who stuck through with this class and watched it. Make sure to apply these skills at home also. And of course, to really improve your IELTS band score with the right kinds of strategies and skills, ones that we ourselves use as educators, as learners, visit us at aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Have sweet dreams. Much love to all of you. I'll catch you tomorrow early morning, 9 to 10 a.m. Central European Time. Bye for now.